In this video, I'll show you how to use the Varipole to mount lights or a camera in your studio or kitchen to save space. I'll go over what it is and how to use it. And then I'll talk about some accessories you'll need to get the most out of this amazing tool. At the end, I'll show you one important tip on how to adjust the pressure of the pole. So the Impact Varipole is pretty much a large tension rod, and it uses pressure to secure itself between the ceiling and the floor, just like this. It has non-slip rubber and non-marking cushions on each end of the pole. To secure it, you simply place it anywhere you like in your kitchen or studio. Press the safety locking latch outwards and then release the height adjustment handle. Pull the top tube up until you hit your ceiling. Make sure that the tension mechanism right here is all the way down. And then bring the adjustment handle down until it clicks into the safety locking latch. As you pull the handle down, it grips onto the upper pole and it pushes it into the ceiling, creating pressure and tension between the ceiling and the floor to secure the pole in place. So quick caveat, this video isn't sponsored, but I did get all of this stuff for free from B&H, and I'll be sure to put a link to everything that I talk about in the description of this video. I also got this Impact Varipole leveler to help me ensure that the poles are not crooked. It wraps around the pole and it locks into place with this bungee cable. Now, you don't need this for every Varipole that you purchase. Just use the same one and move it to the next pole when it's time to set it up. The Varipole's minimum height is 6 feet 11 inches and the maximum height is 12 feet 1 inch. If your ceilings are taller than 12 feet, you can buy extension tubes that make the Varipole 59 inches or 78 inches longer. To use the extension tube, you just need to remove the top rubber cushion and slide the skinnier end of the extension tube into the top of the Varipole where you just removed the rubber cushion. Then insert the rubber cushion onto the top end of the extension pole. So now that the pole's set up, if you want to attach a light to it, you need to get one of these Impact super clamps. Heads up, they make them in two different types. There's one that has a T-handle to tighten the clamp, and I recommend getting the one with the ratchet handle, which makes getting a nice tight clamp easier. To use the super clamp on the Varipole, just make sure you remove the wedge insert. This is used for clamping onto flat surfaces. You could store the wedge onto the back of the clamp near this screw. I like to put the included hex stud onto my light first, and then I'll place this onto the super clamp. Just make sure you tighten the screw, and then I'll clamp this onto the Varipole. You can pull the ratcheting handle out and then rotate it if it's in the way or if you need more leverage to crank this sucker down. The pole was in the way of my power cable of my lights, so I removed my light and then flipped the clamp to give myself room for my power cable. I like to use these Velcro cable ties to keep the power cable nice and tight against the pole. You can get a pack of like 50 of these for around $15. And you just want to make sure that you get the ones that are at least 8 inches long so that they can wrap all the way around the pole. If you're finding value in this content, do me a huge favor and like this video, please. One of the main reasons I love using a Varipole compared to a light stand is that it has a much smaller footprint on the floor. And I can even put these poles right up against the wall or in the corner of a room, and that's just something I can't do with a light stand or a C-stand because of their legs. Plus, you can get 2 Varipoles for the price of 1 cheap C-stand. If you want to mount a camera instead of a light, I'd use the Impact double ball joint head and camera platform. I like to put the included hex stud onto one side of the ball joint head first and make sure that it's nice and tight. On the other end, I'll add the camera platform kit and tighten this down as well. Then just place the hex side of the pin into the clamp and tighten that down. The camera platform has a screw on it to attach it to the 1/4-20 mount on the bottom of your camera. Then just turn the ratcheting handle to loosen the ball joints. Adjust your camera to your liking and then turn the ratchet handle to tighten it into place. I like to make it just a little tight so I can fine tune the camera to how I want it, then give it one final crank to lock it in place. So typically this setup is mostly ideal for a camera that's just going to be locked off the entire shoot and not move around. If this is your one and only camera for cooking videos, then I would still recommend using a tripod. A tripod is going to be the quickest way to move and adjust your camera height or angle compared to using a Varipole. I'll put a link to a video on tripod recommendations in the description of this video. The Varipole also works between two walls, so you can mount this thing horizontally above your head, and this is a great way to get everything off of the floor. Now, just a quick word of caution, I wouldn't recommend putting too much weight on the pole if you plan to mount it this way. This is how I see most creators use the Varipole to hold their lights or their camera on top-down shots. On the website, it even says that the Varipole can be secured by its own force of pressure between solid walls or the floors and ceilings. However, the safest way to mount your lights or camera higher up for top-down shots like this is to use two Varipoles and a crossbar. To do this, you need these Impact U-hook crossbar holders, which go into the Impact super clamps. Place two Varipoles across from each other, just like this. Now, I'm just running these close to each other so I can fit everything into the shot, but you can buy a longer 8 or 10 foot or 12 foot pole to fit your kitchen or studio space. Place a super clamp on each Varipole at your desired height. I'm doing this a lot lower just so it's easier for me to film. You can use a measuring tape and tape or a pen to mark the height of each clamp so that they are nice and even. I drilled a hole in the ends of my crossbar so that I can put a screw through it and the hole in the U-hook crossbar holders. Then I'm using a wing nut to tighten down the screws. And this will keep my lights or camera in place once I mount them onto my crossbar pole with a super clamp. So after editing this video, I found a much more stable way to mount a horizontal pole between two Varipoles. You're going to need two super clamps per pole, and one of them needs the brass hex pin inside of it. Mount the super clamp with the hex pin in it to the pole first. Then simply attach your other super clamp to the one on the pole with that hex pin. Just make sure that that clamp part is pointing up. This is going to allow you to simply drop your pole into the clamp and clamp it secure. This way is like 10 times more stable than using those hooks. So if I were to do this setup in a kitchen, I would run the Varipoles further apart and put the crossbar up higher above my head, so that way I can still get a nice medium shot of me at my prep table when I'm prepping or cooking on camera. It might just be easier to buy one long pole from Home Depot or something and chop it to your preferred length. Once we crop in the shot just like this, you won't be able to see the Varipoles or the camera that's shooting my top-down shot. You know, I got a whole ass course on how to make professional looking cooking videos, and I'll put a link in the description if you're interested, and I'll flash a discount code at the end of this video. Or just hit the subscribe button, which is absolutely free. If you're planning to just run a single Varipole from wall to wall, or if you're noticing your Varipoles are just not that secure or slipping, then I would recommend adjusting the tension mechanism. The way that this works is as you pull the adjustment handle down, this part of the tension mechanism squeezes on that top pole and then pushes it into the ceiling or wall. This 13mm bolt right here will adjust how hard it will grip onto that top pole. With the adjustment handle fully disengaged, I'll tighten that bolt to the point where when I lift the top pole, it also lifts that part that clamps around it. I'll then loosen that bolt by just about a half turn or so that I can lift that top pole and it just barely catches that part that clamps around it. On the other side of the adjustment handle, there is also an adjustment screw to increase the leverage or tension as well. To make the tension stronger, you'll just loosen this screw and move it over to the hole onto the left and then tighten it back down. This essentially just pushes the top pole out about ½ an inch further than when the screw is on the right of the adjustment handle, which creates more tension. If you made it this far in the video, comment something random to trick YouTube into thinking that this is a good video, and I'll have some other helpful videos pop up over here, and you can use this discount code here for 20% off my cooking creators course. I will catch you in the next video.